to have you with us this afternoon.
Same here. I'm honored to be here.
Mithali, we are so proud of your achievements, and you were nearly there this year, taking the World Cup. And it was such a lovely moment for us to see you out there, and especially a team which was not expected to come anywhere close to finals. I guess the underdogs, you came right on top and you nearly won the World Cup. Amazing. I think she deserves that huge round of applause.
Thank you.
So, just for some of my guests, Mithali in the year 2003, I was just doing a lot of reading up upon her, and she's a person who initially, she didn't take cricket as a passion. She kind of accompanied her elder brother to the cricket court for practice, because your father was keen that you accompany him and practice, and I think then the coach discovered the passion in you and then promoted you to join the women's cricket team in your school.
Yes.
And thereafter. So could you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Well, as a young kid, I was into dance. Not many know that I'm a trained classical Bharatanatyam dancer. I've learned dance for 8 years. And cricket just happened to me because Dad was in Air Force, and he was very strict and disciplinarian at home. And I was the laziest child. I loved sleeping, and I used to hate getting up early in the morning. Since everybody were early risers at home, so he wanted to inculcate the habit in me, and that's how I started to tag along with my brother to the cricket coaching camp, which was an exclusive boys camp, so I was the only girl there. So being the only girl, I used to get the first preference, so that curiosity in me, getting the first chance to bat gave me that edge of accepting that sport, and it created that energy in me that, I should be the best among the boys. So that competitiveness developed very young in me. Yeah,
I know. And then coach, he told your father that, I think you were 10 at that time, Mithali.
When I started cricket, I was 10-year-old.
And he said he needs 4-5 years so that he would assure that you're at least playing in the nationals. And that kind of dedication was required by the family to support you.
Yeah. He did tell my dad that his aim was that I represent India at 14, because Sachin represented India at 16. So he said this girl should represent at the age of 14. I almost did. In 1997 World Cup, I was the first standby as a 14-year-old. And it was difficult, the initial periods, because coming from a South Indian family, it is very rare for a girl to take up sport. And my grandparents were against it, and they kept on cribbing, why are you sending a girl to the ground? She comes back tanned, she gets hurt, I have stitches on my face. So they weren't very keen, but it was my dad and my mom's support and their determination to turn the girl into a cricketer is something has helped me along, and they have cocooned my life in such a way that I didn't have to deal with all the negativities in my way, and they protected me from the society's the bad side of the society, I would say, in those days.
I know.
And I went on to play for India in '99.
Very proud moment for all of us.
Thank you.
So Mithali, I also read that when your dad sent you to the coaching camp, and he said that they would definitely ask you to captain the team in 2003. And you said, okay, let's see. And when you went to the coaching camp and when they did ask you to captain, you just heard that inner voice inside you saying that you were not ready, and you declined, in spite of your father telling you that even if they ask you, you have to agree. So how important for you at that time was to hear that inner voice, and in spite of your dad telling you to captain the team, you just declined, and yeah.
Well, here I would just go back in time, because when I represented India, or the first experience of being in the Indian World Cup probables camp in '97, I was the youngest, and I had my seniors who were double my age. If I was 14 years, they were all 30-year-olds. So I was very lonely. Most of my journey, my career as a cricketer has been very lonely because whichever level I have played, I've always been the baby of the team. And it gets difficult to match up your, your mindset to a senior player or expecting them to come down to a teenager's age to interact. So I was left on my own, and those were the periods where I really worked on myself. I started to use that time wisely to understand about myself, what are my abilities, how far I can push, what are my strengths and weaknesses. So when I went into the camp, as my dad told me that you be prepared, they might offer you to the captaincy for the Indian team. I did hear him out, but probably he's my mentor, but he doesn't understand that all these phases which I've gone through, it is an experience that only I have in me. And when they approached me, I understood that, I am still not ready to take up the responsibility as a captain. And in spite of my dad telling me. So it's just an instinct, and the gut feeling just made me, decide that I should decline it. And I think I have done a wise thing.
Absolutely, because in 2005, when you became the captain, you again, in Australia, is when you took the team to the finals, right? In
Yes.
2005.
That was also a different experience, very immature, apprehensive, self-doubt leader, I would say, because that was my first outing as a Indian team captain in the biggest stage, that's the World Cup. I haven't led any side in the domestic before that. So in terms of experience, I was very raw. I was a rookie captain, but I had a very good side. I had a lot of seniors under me, ex-captains under me. So that's also an experience because as a young leader, you have seniors under you. It teaches you a different side of leadership.
Right. So, Mithali, to all my audience here, how important it is, your message to them, telling them how, that inner voice which prevented you to take up such a glamorous post of being a captain of our Indian team, how important it is in today's scenario, especially when you got so much of stress around you, to actually get oblivious to your environment and hear that voice and believe that that sport is going to work for you.
Well, it is important that one should work on themselves because self-belief is the very essence of personal growth. And we have too many things these days, so many distractions. We spend so much of our time on things which are very irrelevant, which doesn't play any role in the growth of oneself. And I have worked, obviously, since the 90s. I was to myself, so I tried to read a lot. I've developed a different perspective to the situations, and I'm in a better position to handle things. And today's world, for the gathering, I don't think I am someone who should advise, but everybody have a different path. Everybody have their own experiences that they learn. And I just want to say that to follow a goal and to achieve something, the very principles of success is very basic, and the fundamental things are very similar whichever endeavor you take, whether it is sports field, doctor or lawyer, any career you choose, the basic fundamentals like the hard work, the commitment, the sincerity and the courage, especially for women or for girls, I would say the courage is very important, and the willingness to say no to those people and to those attitudes which say that you cannot do it. And that really requires a lot of willpower that each one of us have. It's just a matter of tapping it, and that you can only do when you spend that solidarity time with yourself.
Very well said, Mithali.
Thank you.
So coming from an absolute disciplined background of an Air Force personnel's daughter, and as you said that your father had such a big influence in your life, how has it helped this discipline in what you've become today?
It was very difficult, I should say, because for someone who loved sleeping, waking up early in the morning at 4 o'clock, and those winters where you want to cuddle into your blanket and enjoy the early morning sleep. I used to see my grandparents sleeping. I used to wonder, when will I grow old? as, as a young kid, you just want to enjoy that phase. But Dad, as you've mentioned, very strict. He was very committed to the time. Something which he taught me that, when you give time, a commitment to people, you need to stick to it, irrespective of whether you like it or not. And discipline also taught me a lot about, the desire, the passion, because when you're disciplined, there are times when, as a cricketer, we work so much on our fundamental, the basic skill. Sometimes it gets very boring, and yet you have to do it to master it. And these simple day-to-day things which you do will pile up to become a very huge, helps you to achieve huge accomplishments. You don't understand because every day you do it, routine, and sometimes you wonder, like, I should do something different. But these are the things, when it is really boring, that is the time when it actually you will understand your commitment and your own self-discipline, whether you're worth going that far, whether you have it in you to go that far. So discipline tests you, but it also is something which helps you in organizing your day, organizing your life. And obviously it still hasn't taught me to enjoy getting up early in the morning. I still hate getting up.
So it's so important, Mithali. Today we're living in a generation where sports, especially in school going children, takes a backstage. There's so much of pressure on studies and stuff like that. So what is your message to especially our young audience, that how important it is to inculcate an activity or sports, however busy they are doing academically?
Well, it's just sad that I don't see many schools having a ground, because I've started playing cricket only through my school, though it was an exclusive girls' school, and yet we had a school team, we had a ground to play on. But these days I only see blocks of school, just the building, and not many have grounds for the children to play. For young girls, and I would say that sports is very important. It's just not girls, for boys, for everybody, because it gives us a healthy outlook to life, and it teaches you so many aspects, like the competitiveness, the flexibility to understand the situation and adapt to it, and the maturity that one gets way early than an average kid. Because as a 10-year-old, when I started to go on tournaments, I wasn't accompanied with my parents. I had to deal with everything, all the difficulties on my own. So that time is what, you tend to find that will from somewhere within you to deal with the situation, because you don't have your parents. And those days we didn't have mobiles, so you can't really get to call them as and when you want to. So you make mistakes, you learn from them, and that's how you understand yourself. So I think sports is very important for everybody, and it gives you an all-round growth as a person, to your personality.
Absolutely. And tell me something, Mithali, this year when you almost were there winning the World Cup, you just lost by a very, very narrow margin. Obviously, I did see your interview where you're trying to have a very brave front in your press meeting, but there was that pain in your eyes. Having gone through dealing, with the team behind in your dressing room, and then accepting that fine, you're runners up or you come second in the entire tournament, has it in some way helped you to prepare for the future, as in terms of emotionally? And do you think that this probably is good, because it's always good to fail to ensure that you will succeed next time? So did you ever feel, did this thought console you or something else?
Well, I realized one thing in 18 years of my career, that no matter how many times you fail and you succeed, the hurt of a failure can, it can, no matter how wise or experienced or matured you are, you still feel the hurt. And it's just the same that, when we lost by 9 runs, I know I was just an inch away from getting my hand on the trophy, and it's quite heartbreaking. But again, I'll go back to the last question, why sports is important, because sports teaches you to move on. Sports teaches you that unless you move on, you don't grow as a person. And it is there, you do feel dejected, because nobody would want to taste failure. But it is important because we as people learn the best life lessons through adversity. It teaches you a lot about yourself, about the situation, about the circumstances and how people around you behave. We should be looking to the future.
That's our captain speaking of the Indian women's cricket team. I think she deserves a huge round of applause. I'm sure you're going to nail it next year, Mithali, with the kind of thought, and I'm sure that the kind of leadership that you're providing among your team, I mean, I'm not surprised now that how an underdog team like the Indian cricket team, women's Indian team, to just reach finals. They just had to have a captain like you.
Thank you.
So, Mithali, even today in our country, things are not the same for girl child. We do have a patriarchal system still, and just recently in the papers, in fact, yesterday I read a child who wanted to sing was killed by her parents because her father didn't want to pursue her passion for singing, and she was actually killed. So we're still living in a very patriarchal society where our fathers or our brothers and after marriage our husbands take all the decisions. But in spite of all this, you've kind of broken all norms and you've come to not only rise to become a captain of the women's Indian team, but you also in some way become a role model and inspiration to all the young girls, over here. So what would be your very strong message to them, that mad stubbornness, that no matter what, how important it is to go there and achieve, especially for that young lady who's listening to you today?
Well, I would say that don't allow anyone to steal the power or rob you of the very thing which is truly yours, is your dreams, your ambition, your goals. And if need be, you need to stand up alone, face the world, but know within you that you are chasing something which is purely yours. And for that, if you have to fight the world, you should. And being successful or not is secondary, but the process of reaching there is a journey, and that itself is something you can create for yourself. I do understand it is very difficult. I've been one of those fortunate girl to have my parents' support, but in today's circumstances, it's important for a young girl to have some support, whether it can be in the manner of a coach or a mentor, sometimes uncles, grandparents, or parents. So they are young, so I can't really tell them to, wear on your warrior gear and just fight. But yes, I would definitely tell them not to give up until you give the best fight that you can.
Wonderful. Excellent. So Mithali, all those days of hard work when you were envying your grandparents and some relatives were a little cynical about all them, what's your, how do they react to you right now?
Just like everybody else, they are very happy for me. And they do feel proud that I'm part of the family. Yeah, but yes, those difficult days one cannot really forget, because you shouldn't forget the very roots that you've come from. Irrespective of where you touch, those are the very foundations of a person that I am. And in spite of they being cynical, I think a lot of credit goes to my parents, the way they have brought me up.
Absolutely, Mithali. So what does this Mithali see 10 years down the line? What's that Mithali going to look like? And what would you, is it something that you aspire to, or you just live every day the way it is? Or is there an aspiration that probably this is what I would like to do 10 years down the line?
Right now, each day at a time. And, if I really have to think, what would I do after my playing days? I would want to contribute in a way like mentoring the young girls, especially the under 16, under 19 girls, because that is the phase you need somebody, the right kind of an influence, so that the girls can accept the pressure that they're going to deal when they graduate into senior level or play international level, and give them the right kind of opportunities, the facilities which I didn't get during my period. So I am now women's cricket, and I am in a better position that I can give those to the young girls who cannot, who are not access to those facilities, especially the girls from districts, from backgrounds where they're financially not stable. So I think for those young girls who want to be a cricketer, or even just not cricketer, but in whatever capacity that I can, if I can help them out, I think I would do my bit for the society.
Wonderful, Mithali. And one final question for all the ladies over here. How important is fitness as you're aging? For a girl probably who's in her 40s, 50s, what do you think should be done for ladies as they are, growing older? Because fitness and exercise is generally more connected with the younger people, 20s and teens and 30s, and after you're like 40, 50, 60, your BMR comes down, and then your, the necessity to do exercise comes down. But what would be your take for ladies, especially in their 50s and 60s? What should be their fitness mantra?
Well, I can just say that fitness is not limited to the teenagers. It is for everybody. If you have to be healthy, you eat right. You work out according to your physical, stability. That not a 60-year-old can lift weights, but there are few exceptions these days. You get to see on the social media, the 60, 70-year-old.
They're doing very well.
Yeah. So, but then again, you have to be practical. And if someone who's not been doing fitness in the earlier years of their life, it is wise that you stick to the basics, keep yourself healthy, eat right, and I think nothing better than being just happy and content, because that itself gets a lot out of one's physical ability and mental ability too. So I think if you're clear and you have a clear mind, everything looks very happy, and you enjoy doing fitness, you enjoy being at home, you enjoy doing whatever you intend to do. It's just about the right mindset.
Absolutely. So you should be overall fit and well and be content.
Yes.
So we end our conversation today with a strong message by our star to how to lead a holistic, well life. Thank you, Mithali.
Thank you very much.